Hi, everybody. It has been a minute since I've made a video of any substance. I've been doing some posts just to let some of you know that I'm alive. I think that I'm solidly in the era of my channel here where I'll just be doing infrequent posts when, as I mentioned a long time ago, or a year ago, when I have something new and interesting in my collection, or when I think that I have something interesting to say. And I have at least one of those, which I'll get to in just a moment. But in regards of thinking that I have something worth saying, I've been reflecting on this idea of what is the Supernatural Encounters community. Supernatural Encounters, written by Joe Bongiorno, billed as the final piece of the expanded universe, of which we now have a community of fans around. And from now, which is evolving into a new fan fiction initiative, Expanded Supernatural Encounters, ESE, as it's called. And to backtrack a bit, you might have seen on my YouTube posts or some of my friends' posts, or in the Discord, if you're watching this from here, in lieu of the cancellation of Legends Con 2, a small group of friends and I, kind of in driving distance to Joe's in New York, were fortunate enough to be hosted by him and were able to hang out, which was amazing. We had a great time. Still heartbroken that I didn't get to meet so many of you that I was going to meet at Legends Con 2, but there will be other opportunities to meet you guys. A few of you in particular I'm thinking of that we will most certainly meet someday. But at Joe's, as you may have also seen, we found some cool stuff. Not a lot of stuff, but some cool stuff. One of them was the New Jedi Order Story Bible, previously unreleased. Joe had, we were kind of looking at his awesome collection and all hanging out, and Joe had brought forward a box of books that's like duplicates of stuff from his EU collection. He's like, help yourself. I'm trying to get rid of some stuff. And then at one point, the second day, he starts looking through some papers in his garage just to show us anything cool that he might have. He's got a lot of cool stuff. And he basically identifies this whole stack of papers and old merch stickers and old Star Wars fan club stuff like that. And he's like, hey, you take stuff, and we just like sort of descended upon it like the hounds of Scathe, and all kind of just talked about what we wanted to take. Nothing groundbreaking. We didn't find Escape from Dagu or any unreleased EU. Though Corey did find some interesting stuff that you can tune into the Discord, and he'll start talking about that as he's ready to look into it. More on that later. But we found, Joe's handing me stuff, and I got this big stack of stuff, and taking it into the room for everybody to look at. And he's like, New Jedi Order, and I'm like, New Jedi Order, and then I look at it, and it says, this is the Story Bible on it, which, to the credit of other parts of the fandom, the HoloNet documentary, which I have started but not finished, is one of the reasons that the relevance of the New Jedi Order Story Bible was on my mind. I immediately identified it as something that is significant, and so I later had to go and ask other parts of the fandom to figure out if this was in fact unreleased. And it was not released, and now it is released. I scanned it and released it into the wider fandom, and it was really nice to see the wider fandom having a good time and being happy about something. And so, kind of building off that, just to wrap up these thoughts, we've grabbed a few other cool things. I got a comic script from an old comic, a one-shot. We found a few other cool things that I'm going to combine with maybe scanning some of the parts of my collection that aren't like archived online or anything like that. And we're just going to try to scan them and get them out to the wider fandom to enjoy. It's a good feeling to give something to the wider fandom on behalf of the Supernatural Encounters community and just see them have a good time. You're not going to get anything as big as the NJO Bible, to be clear, so manage your expectations. But I'm still kind of going through some of the other items and scanning it. A lot of the items that we got from Joe's are just like tons of old cool EU stickers and Star Wars Fan Club merch and postcards and stuff like that. I actually packaged up some of those and sent them out to a couple of friends. But what is the Supernatural Encounters fandom? Because I've been thinking about that. Because I think that we are pretty cool. I think that we represent a good balance in the fandom. I think that we do not lean in the direction of kind of being Disney supplicants and blindly liking and following everything that they create. But I also think that we have the integrity not to weaponize our degree of knowledge about the EU and use it and leverage it in some sort of culture war, for lack of a better term, right? We like the EU and just the EU and Disney. And that's another piece that I think makes our community so special, is that we have the integrity to, for the most part, we have a diversity of opinions. We have the integrity to put our foot down and say, we care about the EU. The EU is our priority. The cancellation of the EU was unacceptable. And I come in after the cancellation, and even I can identify it as unacceptable. Many of us, and it's not a requirement, not all of us, agree that it ought to be continued or at least concluded. And yet, we allow fans of Disney stuff into our community. We don't care. We have spaces in Discord for people to talk about Disney stuff where they can not be bothered. And I have a whole shelf of Disney stuff, right? I've read 80% of it. Disney's Del Rey era especially has been pretty good. There's a lot of good stuff in there. And I started reading, if you know the channel, if you know me, I don't really have a channel or a brand. If you've watched some of the other videos that happen to be on the channel that I use to interact with friends, that's what my channel is, then you know that I started reading Disney stuff and then got into the EU and much prefer the EU, but I still hold a soft spot for the Disney stuff I've read, and a lot of it's objectively good. I think that as it pertains to Supernatural Encounters and what makes us special, in terms of the types of fans we are, not socially, as I kind of just covered, but in terms of how serious we are, and why I think we're pretty cool, is because we are the most serious, right? You can raw dog Supernatural Encounters. You can go in without having read any other EU, and some crazy people have done it, and they liked it. I would not recommend it. I could not do it. For me, my prerequisite reading for reading Supernatural Encounters was the entire expanded universe, right? And then some, as I went on to read other works that are older than Star Wars, that kind of play into the history of how Star Wars came about, that have been incorporated and alluded to in the text, which is another thing that makes Supernatural Encounters so special. Supernatural Encounters is the end game, right? It is the final boss of the expanded universe. And now our community finds itself in the really fun position to have the spirit and energy and contributors to create our own fan fiction surrounding supernatural encounters. Which brings me to another point that anybody curious about what our community stands for or how we feel about supernatural encounters, and I don't speak for everybody in our community with any given thing that I say in this video, but I think it's a pretty good enough reflection of what we're thinking and our vibe. Others might see how seriously we take supernatural encounters, how much we love it, right? How much we talk about it. We have our own community for it, right? And get the incorrect impression that that's the entire EU to us. But that's not so. So what am I getting at? Where does expanded supernatural encounters fit into this post-cancellation fan fiction framework? In my opinion, it's a side thing, and I think it works best that way. And I think people kind of misunderstand who we are as fans when if they think that weird fiction, space opera type stuff is all we care about, or that we think that's all of what Star Wars is. There are other fan fiction initiatives out there. One that's particularly well organized, the Re-Expanded Initiative, and I've shared their original work, the Boonta Eve Classic, Tales of the Boonta Eve Classic, in my community posts. That is much more representative of the standard vibe and flavor of Star Wars, right? So nobody in the Supernatural Encounters fandom would think that Supernatural Encounters kind of supersedes an initiative that's flavored like that. In my opinion, they kind of go together. Supernatural Encounters fandom is people really looking for the next thing. They've read the final boss of the EU, and now the door is open for them to read more things. And I guess with that, I just show you the third edition, which is on its way, or maybe I'm going to wait a day or so that people are actually opening packages. The third edition, 2-volume set. We have the Talatni cover and the Vaughn cover. The Talatni cover, you've seen these online. You have not seen the back. I'm sure Joe's going to post the full image soon enough. What an amazing piece. This is the end of book 4, when Talatni, this is a spoiler, defeats for the first time the immortal gods of the Sith. And it's an awesome scene. Book 4 itself being really dense. I never did a review of Supernatural Encounters, and I don't know if I'm equipped to. There are so many people in our community that are way smarter than me and better at analyzing and articulating these sorts of things. As it stands, I don't even know, Supernatural Encounters is not a novel. I think we struggle with how to even regard it. It's an online article that just now happens to be in a gigantic 1,000-page book that now needs 2 volumes. The Vong cover, this is depicting in the Vong in their attempts to fight the Admonitors and persuade their planet that eventually becomes, well, does not become, this is a spoiler, eventually seeds the planet that will become Zonama Seacoat. This is essentially their fall to the dark side, not in terms of the Force, but when they start calling on evil powers. So we see Vong kind of pre-mutilation here. This scene is not explicitly shown in the text. It's sort of an extrapolation there. This is what they look like without the dust jackets. I'm really excited about this because it's leatherette and it's not black, it's red and green, which goes with the dust jacket. Matches the corresponding dust jacket really well. Our foil stamping symbols are new. These you'll find in the interior at the different books 1 through 6 is where you'll find these. And 2 volumes means 4 different end papers. And Joe took the opportunity. I think he wants to give people value that are rebuying, right? Joe took the opportunity to redo the maps. This 3rd edition is mostly for people who still want this high quality print of Supernatural Encounters. There was the Amazon edition. Joe kind of plans for a standard edition. But I'm glad he gave everybody the opportunity to buy in again. I know of several people who missed out on the high quality backer edition that now have this quality edition, right? And so what are some of the unique features of Joe's printer? Is the foil stamping on the front, leatherette. You only get linen wrap from self-printing like Lulu, and these end papers, and this absolutely rad map of Ilithurian. And here we have a whole new art piece. So we have the 2 new covers and here. And this is depicting the Euthros on an ancient Dromonkas. And I'm sure that if I got that wrong, I'm going to be annihilated in Discord by my friends who are much smarter than me. And here we have, you'll be able to look at the map, the Nile Retreat, you'll be able to look at the maps yourself. And Aperon, and this one, I mean, they all have cool secrets, but I got to talk about this one a little bit with Corey, and it was exciting. Another cool little feature, let's see if I can find it quickly. We have finally in full color the Adder Hive, commissioned by, I'm going to butcher this man's name, Eddie Vanderheyden. I'm sorry. He's an old head, friend of Joe's and Luke's, and now we have it in full color. We have the Corey Carter's Atlas Appendix from the Amazon edition, and we have a couple other cool bits here. I know Dr. Frickfrack went ahead and finally got us that Willow Venn diagram, but altered to work within Supernatural Encounters. And then we have another appendix by Corey Carter, a closer look at Aperon, the Infinity Realm of Aperon. Right there we are. And that, I believe, is a part of a plan for him to do a closer look at least one of the other maps he just recently mentioned. And that's some of the stuff that will be getting dropped in the Discord, the PDF for you to read, right? So after you read the entire EU, after you read the final boss of the EU, there's more to read. Very niche, yeah? Very hardcore is why I think we are pretty cool. And it kind of, just this 3rd edition makes me reflect on the fact that we have like 19 editions of Supernatural Encounters now. And I am wondering kind of how that's settling with like the fandom at large. In my view, it's giving people an opportunity to buy into Supernatural Encounters. It retains the special feel of the Legends Con 1 copy or the backer copy, right? Retains the collectability of that, but gives new people an opportunity to buy one. And for the few of us, you just keep buying them. No one expects you to keep buying them. That reminds me, we have Legends Con 2 symbol still on the book, which is, and these were meant for Legends Con 2. And I'm glad it's there. Heartbreaking. But Legends Con 2 was planned, and it was an amazing offering for the fans, and I think everybody that was involved with it should be proud of what they offered up. It's kind of like the end of Inside Out when the mixed emotion ball comes out at the end. Right? We take our punches and we move on and we live with what's happened. and I'm good with that being there. And that's indicative of that. I think is bittersweet, but for the most part, I still look on it positively. And the third edition, if you bought the third edition, there were different tiers. As I understand it, these copies were made as cheap as possible, and then you were able to add these on. And this is where it gets exciting. Samantha, who I met at Joe's, rules, and she is a talent. And Wish 13, this story feels like Star Wars, and it feels like supernatural encounters. And she commissioned her friend to make this awesome piece here. And she was telling me about these kindred designs ages ago she wanted to do for her RPG group. And I was like, where? I haven't seen those. Where are those cool kindred illustrations? And here they are, put to good use. I read this when it dropped in the Discord, the PDF, and it was great. And now I have the book and these extra books, which you guys that are getting them in the mail, you'll see are numbered, and the numbering is like authenticated by Joe, right? And signed by Sammy. And we have 2 source books, which are available online. StarWarsTimeline.net, Joe's website, or just come into the Discord. And we have the first piece of Kevin's really big aliens guide that he's doing. And why I think this one works so well as its own book is it's the Firstborn Races is kind of the most relevant to SE as far as I'm concerned. But he's going to be working on this for years, and I don't know what his eventual release plans are, but I guess we'll find out. We have in-universe forwards, which I suppose would be, as far as continuity's sake, ESE continuity. We're in a really interesting position here, now having this fan fiction building off of supernatural encounters. Look at that. Kevin did the formatting for Corey's and his. And Corey has been cooking this up all year. The guide to the celestial spheres. It couldn't just be the planet's guide. I remember when he announced that. Earth. Right, so here's the planet from Willow. Totally cool. I think that Supernatural Encounters' inclusion of the different properties is done expertly. I mean, if you probably heard me yapping about it in the Discord, but if you're not in the Discord, I grabbed these 2 books to set aside real quick to kind of explain why Supernatural Encounters is so special. Because you read it at the end of the EU, and it's kind of contingent on knowing the entire continuity, some pieces more than others, but it's also an opportunity to learn about, in Joe's view, but I think he makes a good case, what inspired and led to the creation of Supernatural Encounters and what George Lucas, some of George Lucas's influences might have been, or what some of the genre influences might have been. So let me present this to you. I've broken this down before. We have, the 19 teens and 20s Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars series, right? Which directly led to, generation later, Edmund Hamilton's Antares space opera. John Carter of Mars takes place on Mars. Antares takes place on a red world, but it is very much like a literary descendant of John Carter of Mars. In Supernatural Encounters, as we explore the ancient past of the Star Wars universe, Joe uses Star Wars' real past and inspiration to build out the fictional universe. And how it works is the settlers from Mars find a gate, as is mentioned in the text, go through a hypergate, I forget what the gate's called, and that's how Antares is settled, right? So literally in universe, Edgar Rice Burroughs' Mars, becomes or leads to or evolves into the world of Antares. And then here in Edmund Hamilton's World of Antares is where the lightsaber is almost certainly comes from. George Lucas's lightsaber, the light swords featured in here, which Magneto, Alex, and I and Joe talk about on a stream we did a while back. Alex was kind enough to host a pretty cool stream with us where we talked about the history of space opera, mostly where Joe told us about it. And then here in Supernatural Encounters, it's established that lightsabers, part of their historical construction in universe, comes from the light swords of the Antares system. And there's stuff like that all over SE, as we'll call it. I guess I've diverged from my original point to bring it all back home. What is the Supernatural Encounters community, and who are we? We're pretty cool, and we're down here at the bottom of the iceberg, right? And if you've navigated the fandom and found us down here at the bottom of the iceberg, welcome, because you must be the real deal. Thank you.